Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Heavy Repping. My name is John Davidson, and what follows is an article entitled An Introduction to Vintage Guitar Picks, written by Joe Macy, published here in part at his request, and in full by Heavy Repping. If you would like any more information on vintage picks, please visit Joe's YouTube channel at the link in the description, or visit heavyrepping.com for the complete text-based article. Part 5. Mosaics and Patterns. Producing celluloid in these attractive patterns was as much art as craft, and that knowledge disappeared with the craftsmen who lost their jobs when the US-made Golden Age celluloid came to a close in 1949. The Italians largely supplied the US pick market thereafter, and while they made their own attractive celluloids, they were of course in different patterns than had been previously produced in the US. None of the lively colours or patterns these picks display are printed. The material itself is made that way. In fact, printing on them would simply interfere with their appearance and detract from the printed logo or message itself. That's why most of these are never printed on. It's like spray painting a message over a piece of artwork. It just doesn't work. But the lack of a logo or grip features that could lead to their identity is further compounded by the fact they don't show up in vintage musical instrument catalogues at all. Yet many can still be identified in terms of country of origin and era. Fewer can be identified by manufacturer, but that too is still possible via cross-comparison of patterns and distinct shapes. I'm confident 22 of the first 35 in rows 1 through 5 are Golden Age, pre-1950, and all the Golden Age pieces are US made. Rows 6 and 7 are another matter. They are all French. More details on those to follow. The entire first row shows 7 different mosaic patterns. Pick number 1 is the oldest style mosaic known. Made of turn of the century, not this century, French celluloid by D'Andrea in the 1930s, it's come to be known as the crayon mosaic. Unlike most translucent mosaics that followed, the colours are solid and crisply separated from one another, rich and more intense. It was produced in well over a dozen shapes, and hails as the king of all mosaics commanding the highest prices. A long mandolin pick, dark and dull in appearance, sits next to it circa 1940, much rarer than a crayon mosaic, and featured here because of its elusive background. I suspect it to be a transitional mosaic to the brighter types that would follow in years to come. Numbers 3, a true confetti, and 4, striated, are 1960s Japan. Identifying their origin is simple. A Japan impression appears in very small lettering. All Japanese vintage picks have this impression, and those that don't simply missed the stamp during production. Japanese picks started appearing in US catalogues around 1958, but evidence suggests some types arrived prior to that. Next is a German-made mosaic in a 348-351 hybrid shape. 6 is a 1960s D'Andrea shape 359, and lastly at the end of the row, a real bright clown barf variety. Row 2 through 5 are all pattern pieces with rarity from 7 to 10. The most peculiar is number 20, a laminate believed to be, and by all appearances, a woman's nylon stocking sandwiched between a bottom white layer and a lacquered top circa 1940. The last 2 rows are all French in origin. 10 of the 14 are laminates. They are called the Duras because that's the geographical location they originated from in France. The factory that produced them or company that distributed and sold them is unknown at this time. Compare them with the mostly US pieces in the first 5 rows, the differences are distinct and obvious. Those, such as 41, 42 and 46, give the impression of some form of modern art, and 43 looks like part of an actual painting. Picks 38, 39 and 44 are shapes only seen with the Duras. Not shown are 2 more shapes exclusive to the Dura group. Their dates range from the 1930s for the non-laminate flat picks like 36 and 38, to anywhere after World War II for the rest. The flat picks are most likely made from a German celluloid rubber hybrid material as confirmed by a burn test. Prior to that test, it was believed that only pure celluloid could be made to be that attractive, but the Germans were the sole masters at producing rubber picks, and both rubber and celluloid were manufactured in the same factories. While number 44 has the nylon stocking appearance of the American number 40, it does not have the lacquered surface. The red flower number 47 does have a lacquered surface, however. All range from 8 to 10 plus in rarity. Though not shown here, several dozen more Duracolor patterns exist. The crafters who made them were obviously inspired to stay in the creative process in order to produce such a large variety of patterns and invent 5 new shapes. Noticeably missing from their inventory is shape 351. Not a single Dura appears in America's most marketable pick shape that would eventually be adopted across Western Europe. That reason alone lends to their authenticity across the board as vintage pieces that possibly precede the 1960s, but until further information surfaces as confirmation, their place in history will remain speculative.